like Lorie, you had the privilege to deal with, meet with, travel with Dr. Ben, the great Dr. Ben. So I wonder if you can just bring us up to date on you had the funeral. He died, of course, and he had the funeral.
Yeah, they had the funeral last Thursday, and you know, Dr. Ben. I mean, his impact on so many people cannot be understated, cannot be overstated. Dr. Ben, I just want to start off first, you know, give him a little bit of a biography. Mm-hmm. Dr. Ben was born on December 31st, 1918. Mm-hmm. So he saw a lot of life. My understanding is that his father sent him to Egypt in 1939. So that was his first introduction to Egypt. And he started taking groups. I mean, he proceeded with his studies, and he started taking groups to Egypt in 1957. Mm-hmm. He did that until 2002. So imagine, wow, you know, 3 trips a year, 200 people, you know, that size of a group. He was doing that on a regular basis in addition to continuing his studies, writing books, lecturing. He has 2 PhDs. He taught at Cornell.
Well educated.
Yeah, very well educated. And it's interesting because Dr. Ben, I mean, he was a very opinionated person. Yeah. If you YouTube, you know, or Google him, if you look up some stuff and you see some of his lectures, you'll see what I mean about opinionated. And I mean, the best thing about him was that he wasn't just of opinions, he was very factual. And what he did is he had the information to back it up, and during the two trips that I took to Egypt, one in 93 and one in 97, I remember Doc saying that he kept saying, I don't want you to believe me. This is why I brought you here. I want you to see it for yourself. And that was the main, one of the major things that he was interested in, making sure that you were able to see yourself. And, you know, even though he could, you know, he could talk about things at a moment's notice, he'd start quoting dates and times and dynasties and, you know, all of this information. As soon as you mentioned a topic, and again, you'll see on...
Was he basically a historian? Was that?
He was exactly that. He was an Egyptologist.
Egyptologist.
You know,
Egyptologist.
He specialized in Nile Valley civilizations, and although he did know a lot about, you know, other areas, that was his specialty, and that was one of the things that he wanted to make sure that we actually saw our information. He lectured or debated, so-called debates, because when he has some of these debates with people who had counter opinions, you would see them basically silent, and no one would really question, you know, what he was saying. They would just say, well, they needed more information or whatever the case is. But, you know, just a side note, I found it interesting that a newspaper, I'm not even going to dignify their name, your newspaper actually wrote an article about, you know, his questionable legacy or something of that nature, you know, questioning his education, you know, where he was born, you know, his PhDs, all this information. They just brought all this stuff up when he died. But, you know, over the amount of time that he's been doing this, if anyone had any questions, they should have asked that then. Right. But besides that, one of the things that struck me as really interesting about Dr. Ben is that he not only talked, I talked to people about his wisdom, because he was not just a factual, you know, opinionated Egyptologist, but Dr. Ben, during those trips, they were 2 weeks, 15-day trips, Dr. Ben would bring out some wisdom that you could only get from someone who's lived the life that he lived. Yes. And what he would do is he would say things that would talk to you about the power within you, within yourself. A short note, one of the girls that was on the trip was talking about how she didn't have to worry about getting sick because she had some sort of stone or whatever around her neck that kept her from getting sick. And I remember specifically Dr. Ben, a necklace. A necklace, you know, with a stone that was supposed to, you know, keep you, you know, sort of like the way people talk about crystals. You know, this keeps me well. Okay. And I remember Dr. Ben looking at her, saying to her, "It's not the necklace that keeps you well. It's your trust in the necklace that keeps you well." Right. You know, and I thought about that. I said, you know, he's telling her that it's you, right. The power is in you. You know, you're putting it in something else, but you need to recognize that it's within you. And another thing that, you know, really hit me in terms of life's lessons is we were on the second trip, a group of us were talking about, he's talking about relationships and people getting married and things of that nature. And I think this is one of the deepest things I've heard in life. Dr. Ben said that you don't have to marry everyone that you're physically involved with, but everyone you're physically involved with should be of the quality of someone you should marry.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, I heard that in '97, and it stuck with me. So I just say that to say that he wasn't just the factual information. He had wisdom that you could only get from people who've seen and know and want to teach. And I think that's one of the most important contributions that he's given to everyone. And everyone that I know who's either been on the trips or heard him lecture, etc., they talk about the fact that he's had such an impact on their life that you can't even begin to explain it.
Oh, very good. What do you think? Did you
That's
hear Lorie talk?
amazing. Yes, it's absolutely amazing. It's amazing that you got to experience that, meet him, get to know him. I'm sitting here listening to your stories, and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. You know, so I applaud you for being able to be a part of that and to be able to give such a stunning testimony.
I feel blessed. I feel really, really blessed.
Yeah. So you took 2 trips with him, right?
That's right.
And you said.
And heard him lecture many times at First World in Harlem. So,
Okay,
I mean, getting that education is just invaluable.
Okay, very good. We thank you for your recounting of your experience with Dr. Ben. I still want you all to think in terms, they may do it in a succeeding program, of where do we go from here with the serious problems that we have in our community with, and it's not just police, all areas of life in terms of government, city government and all that, are problematic for us. This is why people do better when they watch black men screaming. They learn a lot from us. And we ask you to stay tuned to Black Men Screaming.